Jo Hyun finally confronted Ji Yong about being the vigilante. He didn't outright accuse him, but warned him to stop his actions. Ji Yong sensed Jo Hyun was on to him. It was later revealed that Jo Hyun planned to compile a list of vigilante suspects and blame them for the series of criminal murders, effectively scapegoating them. During a date, Ji Yong realized the woman with him was hired by someone to play along, though she mistakenly thought Ji Yong had hired her. Ji Yong then received a call from Gang Ok, who attempted once more to recruit Ji Yong to work together. Ji Yong refused again, but asked Gang Ok to hack Jo Hyun's phone as a condition for collaboration. Meanwhile, Mirio and Dae-suk followed a lead from Jae-hak to a QQ coin mining server. While investigating the site, they were discovered. They tried to escape, but Dae-suk sacrificed himself to save Mirio, who managed to flee. Later, Mirio returned with officers, but the site had been wiped clean, leaving no evidence behind. The police chief, Eom Jae-hyub, pressured Jo Hyun to close the vigilante case before a looming reshuffle as it threatened his position. Jo Hyun sensed ulterior motives behind Jae-hyub's urgency. Ji Yong later received a message from Gang Ok directing him to a locker containing the cloned phone he requested. Using it, that night, Ji Yong was reviewing the cloned phone when he received a notification for a new MBS broadcast. Curious, he tuned in and watched a report covering Yeon Jae-hak's death. The news anchor revealed the final message that reporter Dae-suk had received from Jae-hak, who had been investigating the illegal activities of Seoul Future Resource. The report also highlighted Dae-suk's tragic death and how Mirio narrowly escaped the same fate. At the same time, Jo Hyun and his team were closely following the broadcast. The report unveiled connections between Seoul and police chief Eon Jae-hyub, nicknamed the Vole. Back at MBS headquarters, the station chief was enraged after seeing the broadcast and demanded it be stopped. However, Mirio stood her ground, resolute about continuing the exposé. Meanwhile, the mysterious killer of Dae-suk ordered his men to abduct Mirio, but Jo Hyun, anticipating the move, intervened just in time to save her. Before parting, he warned Mirio about the mounting dangers of her investigations, cautioning her to proceed carefully. Jo Hyun detained one of the kidnappers and pressured him to reveal the names of those involved in the plot. This interrogation led him to learn about Mr. Bang, the man responsible for Dae-suk's murder. Using the information, Jo Hyun tracked down Samdu's hideout. Upon arrival, he confronted the thugs and took them down one by one. Soon after, the police arrived to arrest everyone at the scene. The incident made headlines, but the police falsely pinned the blame on the vigilante. Mirio and Gang Ok came to the conclusion that scapegoating Seoul Future Resource was merely a strategy to put an end to vigilantism within society. However, Ji Yong was not pleased with this tactic. Realizing the framing was Jo Hyun's doing, Ji Yong struck back. He intercepted a recently released criminal linked to Seoul, forcing him to reveal evidence of illegal transactions. Ji Yong's actions disproved the claims that the vigilante had been captured, reigniting public support for him. Furious at being framed, Samdu vowed revenge. Meanwhile, Jo Hyun decided to confront Ji Yong directly. He cornered him on a deserted road under a flyover. They fought, with Jo Hyun overpowering Ji Yong and telling him to stop his vigilantism. Despite being badly beaten, Ji Yong refused to give up, stating his mission was to protect the weak and fight against corruption in the system. After their fight, Jo Hyun decided to end things with Ji Yong. As Ji Yong lay weak, he accused Eom Jae-hyub of orchestrating the vigilante investigation. He declared his resolve to be the evil to fight the evil, challenging Jo Hyun to prove the law could protect the weak before he'd stop. The next day, Jo Hyun was removed from his position by Jae-hyub, who dismissed media accusations about Seoul. Frustrated, Jo Hyun interrogated a kidnapper, learning about someone called the Squeezer, a lead to Mr. Bang. Meanwhile, Ji Yong recovered in the hospital as Gang Ok vowed to support him against Jo Hyun. Despite appearances, Ji Yong was awake and listening to Gang Ok. Mirio, blamed for her reports on Seoul, resigned but soon reopened an independent station funded by Gang Ok. She vowed to expose Seoul and warned that if she died, it would be murder, not suicide. She began broadcasting again, escalating public pressure. Jo Hyun captured the Squeezer, extracting information about Mr. Bang. Meanwhile, Ji Yong uncovered Seoul's link to Maitium Church, where money laundering was occurring. At the church, Ji Yong encountered the copycat vigilante, who revealed himself as Gang Ok. Gang Ok suggested killing the pastor involved, but Ji Young preferred exposing the data publicly to bring Sewol down. The next morning at the university, Young-il visited Professor Lee in his office. After greeting him, Young-il wasted no time and explained the reason for his visit. He wanted to know what Jo Hyun had discussed with the professor during their recent meeting. However, Professor Lee remained tight-lipped and suggested that Young-il ask Jo Hyun directly. Not long after, Ji Young arrived at the office, and Young-il turned his attention to him. He inquired if Jo Hyun had asked the professor to show photos of his students. Once Young-il received his answer, he left. Afterward, Ji Young offered to assist Professor Lee, but the professor declined and suggested that Ji Young take some rest. Meanwhile, Eon Jae-hub was officially appointed as the new president of the National Police Academy. At the same time, Pastor Shin was seen leading a congregation at his church. Elsewhere, a man who had been involved in stealing data related to Sewol's money laundering operations seemed hesitant to reveal everything to the pastor. As the pastor appeared, the man finally admitted that he had disposed of the data as instructed. Suddenly, chaos erupted. A man was thrown through the church door, fighting his way inside. The intruder attacked the pastor's followers before setting his sights on the pastor himself. He overpowered the pastor and killed him in the main chapel. The pastor's murder quickly made headlines, with the police pinning the blame on the vigilante. News of the incident reached Jae-hyub, who immediately contacted Samdu to address the situation. Samdu assured him he would handle everything within 5 days. On another front, Gang-ok provided critical information to Mirio, prompting her to ask where he had obtained the data. Suspecting the vigilante's involvement, she pressed for answers, but Gang-ok refused to divulge the source. That evening, Mirio prepared a broadcast about the new revelations, framing it as a follow-up to her earlier reports on Sewol's alleged misconduct. Before she could present the file, Jo Hyun interrupted her broadcast. Meanwhile, Mr. Bang and his accomplice arrived in the building's parking lot, planning to abduct Mirio. Inside, Jo Hyun confronted Mirio, questioning where she had acquired the sensitive file. Mirio dismissed his questions, insisting it was none of his concern. Jo Hyun then cautioned her against involving herself with the vigilante, arguing that her actions, such as glorifying the vigilante and stirring public sentiment, would only put her in danger. However, Mirio stood her ground, showing no fear. She expressed her resolve to support the vigilante's cause, even if it meant facing the risks herself. As Jo Hyun exited the building and got into his car, he was ambushed from behind. A figure hidden in the back seat suddenly attacked him. Jo Hyun tried to defend himself but suffered a wound to his arm before managing to throw his assailant out of the car. The attacker was revealed to be Mr. Bang, and he wasn't alone. His accomplice, Seadol, was there to assist him in the attempted murder. Outnumbered, Jo Hyun found it hard to keep up with the relentless attacks from both men. Despite his best efforts to fight back, he was overpowered. He was stabbed in the leg and later in the stomach. Just as Mr. Bang prepared to land the final blow, Ji Young arrived on the scene. With the sound of police sirens approaching, Mr. Bang and Seadol had no choice but to retreat, leaving Jo Hyun gravely injured. The incident left Jo Hyun hospitalized with severe injuries. The news of the attack quickly spread. Gang-ok, who had seen Ji Young stepping in to save Jo Hyun, confronted him about his motivations. Ji Young then revealed that he intended to turn Jo Hyun into another vigilante. Mirio attempted to visit Jo Hyun at the hospital, but she was stopped by officers guarding his room. They informed her that Jo Hyun was still in critical condition and not allowed visitors. Just as Mirio was about to leave, Jae-hyub arrived at the hospital to check on Jo Hyun. During Jae-hyub's visit, it was disclosed that while Jo Hyun's injuries were not life-threatening, there was no clear timeline for his recovery. After leaving the hospital, Jae-hyub met with a superior figure to report the challenges they were facing because of the vigilante. Elsewhere, Samdu made contact with Mr. Bang. It was revealed that Samdu had been the one to hire Mr. Bang for the attempted assassination of Jo Hyun. Meanwhile, Samdu's men were busy extracting QQ coins from a server when chaos broke out. The building where the operation was taking place suddenly caught fire. Ji Young emerged from the flames, swiftly taking down Samdu's underlings. After retrieving the QQ coins, he converted them into cash. In a symbolic move, Ji Young left all the money at Hanul Orphanage. The fire incident became a topic of discussion during Mirio's broadcast. She highlighted that, while it appeared to be an ordinary fire at first glance, it was actually the work of the vigilante, a calculated response to Sewol's schemes. Ji Young left a clear message in his broadcast, I will take the QQ coins. Before I donate it all, Kim Sam-doo, Eom Jae-hyub, and the hitmen should turn themselves in. His donation to Haniel Orphanage made headlines alongside the arrest of Sam-doo and the connection between Mi Rio and the vigilante. As Jae-hyub heard the news over breakfast, Sam-doo arrived at his house, pleading for help. Jae-hyub coldly refused, threatening Sam-doo to stay silent about their connection. Betrayed, Sam-doo decided to take matters into his own hands. Elsewhere, Young-il reopened the investigation implicating Jae-hyub. Meanwhile, Mr. Bang murdered the Hanul orphanage director and framed the vigilante, pushing Ji-young to act. Fearing for Mirio's safety, Ji-young asked Gong-ok to protect her. As expected, Sam-doo's men raided Mirio's office. However, Mirio anticipated the attack and strategically set up several hidden cameras to live-stream the entire event. The live footage attracted many viewers who became witnesses to the raid. Once the intruders realized they were being recorded, they began destroying the hidden cameras one by one. Their leader eventually found Mirio in her hiding spot and captured her. Just in time, Gangok arrived at the scene and rescued her while the police were already on their way. By the time the authorities reached the office, they found no evidence of the raid, only Mirio sitting unharmed at her desk. Mirio was taken in for questioning. During the interrogation, she claimed that a passerby who happened to see the live broadcast came to her rescue. Young-il, however, was skeptical of her story. He accused her of collaborating with the vigilante to stage the entire incident and lure the intruders. After the questioning, Mirio returned home. Later that evening, while she was taking a bath, someone broke into her apartment and kidnapped her. The next morning, Young-il visited the police academy to question Ji-young. During the interrogation, Young-il directly accused Ji-young of being the vigilante. Professor Lee, who was present, defended Ji-young, telling Young-il not to make baseless accusations without solid proof. Ji-young denied the claim as well. Afterward, Young-il visited Jo Haeon in the hospital. Standing beside Jo Haeon's unconscious body, he remarked on the immense strength it must have taken to defeat someone as formidable as Jo Haeon. Satisfied with his visit, Young-il left the room, unaware that Jo Haeon had been awake the entire time. Elsewhere, Ji-young was meeting with Gangok when Seon-wook called, informing him that Young-il had arrived at the academy with a search warrant and had confiscated Professor Lee's computer. Ji-young dismissed the concern, assuring Seon-wook that everything would be fine, and ended the call. After hanging up, Ji-young confided in Gangok, revealing that he had previously hidden the phone containing QQ coin in Jae-hyub's office and equipped it with a tracer. While planting the phone, he had also discovered another device, Jae-hyub's phone, which he used to communicate with Sam-doo. Ji-young's actions indirectly led Young-il to uncover the link between Jae-hyub and Sam-doo. Jae-hyub arrived and saw that the incriminating phone had been taken. He said nothing and allowed Young-il to leave with it. Shortly after Young-il left, Jae-hyub made a phone call, instructing someone to eliminate both the evidence and Young-il. Tragically, not long after this call, Young-il was involved in a staged accident and died at the scene. News of Young-il's death eventually reached Jo Haeon. Meanwhile, Seon-wook called Ji-young to inform him about the incident. Later that night, Seodol was shown cutting wood while Mirio was present. It was revealed that she had been kidnapped by Mr. Bang. At the same time, Ji-young and Jo Haeon crossed paths in the middle of a deserted road. Ji-young clarified that he wasn't responsible for Young-il's death. He explained that his actions had only led Young-il to uncover the truth. Ji-young then declared his intent to kill Jae-hyub and Sam-doo, regardless of what others thought of him or whether his efforts were ever recognized. His goal was to prove that his justice would bring punishment to those who committed evil. After several days of silence, Gangok discovered that Mirio had been kidnapped. During this time, she was being tortured by Mr. Bang to extract information about the vigilante's whereabouts. Gangok searched her home for clues and quickly informed Ji-young of what he found. Ji-young, having anticipated this situation, decided to move forward with their final plan to provoke their enemies. Gangok entered Sewol's office, where he attacked one of Sam-doo's men who had been on a call with Sam-doo. During the confrontation, Gangok demanded that Mirio be brought to him in exchange for the crypto wallet they were seeking. Sam-doo realized that Mr. Bang was behind Mirio's kidnapping and called him. Offering additional money and the chance to kill the vigilante, Sam-doo convinced Mr. Bang to hand Mirio over to him. Sam-doo then instructed his underlings to gather all available men. Meanwhile, Ji-young and Gangok learned that Sam-doo had mobilized his forces and was desperate to obtain the crypto wallet. The two strategized their next move during a secret rooftop meeting. unaware that Seon-wook was spying on them from a distance. After the meeting, Seon-wook, waiting in the shadows, confronted Ji-young. He urged Ji-young to abandon his current path and instead focus on becoming a good police officer. The following day, Mr. Bang delivered Mirio to the meeting point arranged by Sam-do, as planned by Ji-young. Meanwhile, Sam-do had stationed all his men at the meeting location, instructing them to locate both Mr. Bang and the vigilante. That night, a figure wearing a black hoodie appeared, catching the attention of Sam-do's men, who quickly alerted him. Shortly afterward, more individuals in black hoodies began appearing, confusing Sam-do's men. Realizing he had fallen into a trap set by the vigilante, Sam-do saw the full scale of the plan. The location turned out to be a concert venue where the audience was dressed in black hoodies, making it difficult for Sam-do's men to identify their targets. Ji-young and Gang-ok blended into the crowd, watching everything unfold. Mr. Bang and Seodol arrived at the scene and quickly realized the trap as well. Meanwhile, Sam-do's men, who were keeping watch, spotted Mr. Bang escorting Mirio and immediately informed Sam-do. As the concert began, Ji-young took advantage of the chaos to rescue Mirio from Seodol, who was holding her hostage. Gang-ok, in the meantime, worked to divert the attention of Sam-do's men. After ensuring Mirio was taken to a safe location, Ji-young asked her to begin a live stream to show the public what the vigilante was doing. Mirio began her live broadcast as Ji-young engaged in a fierce fight with Mr. Bang and Seodol. Meanwhile, Jo Hyun saw the stream and decided to head to the scene, bringing his 2 hostages along with him. Gang-ok successfully lured Sam-do and his men to the location, allowing Mirio to capture everything on her broadcast. As the intense battle continued, Jae-hyub was informed of the situation. His superior ordered him to take immediate action to resolve the problem. During the fight, Mirio noticed Ji-young becoming overwhelmed and acted to draw the attacker's attention away from him. Her attempt worked, saving Ji-young, but she found herself cornered inside one of the buses with Mr. Bang closing in to kill her. At that moment, Jo Hyun arrived and struck Seodol, who was locked in combat with Gang-ok. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by Jo Hyun's arrival, Sam-do entered the bus to confront Ji-young. He managed to back Ji-young into a corner, but before he could land a fatal blow, another figure wearing a black hoodie stepped in and was stabbed while protecting Ji-young. The hooded figure was revealed to be Seon-wook.
야, 네가 여기 왜 있냐고.
Seeing his injured friend, Ji-young was overcome with despair. As the police arrived, Ji-young had no choice but to leave Seon-wook in Mirio's care. Gang-ok followed closely behind, fending off Sam-do's underlings to clear the way for Ji-young and Jo Hyun. The chase ended at a dead end, where a final showdown erupted. Ji-young and Jo Hyun traded blows with their enemies, managing to gain the upper hand. Suddenly, Jae-hyub appeared on the scene. He closed the gate, trapping everyone inside, and turned on the water system, flooding the chamber. As the water rose, Jae-hyub aimed his gun at the group, shooting indiscriminately. Ji-young climbed a nearby ladder to stop him, landing several hard punches to Jae-hyub's face. Just as Ji-young was about to finish him off, Jo Hyun intervened, stopping him from delivering a fatal blow. Meanwhile, Mr. Bang climbed the ladder and attacked, distracting both Ji-young and Jo Hyun. In the chaos, Jae-hyub retrieved his dropped gun and fired multiple shots. Jo Hyun endured the injuries and managed to incapacitate Jae-hyub with a punch after the latter ran out of ammunition. Mr. Bang, however, met his end after being stabbed with his own weapon. As the fighting ended, Ji-young collapsed from exhaustion. The incident left devastating consequences on all sides. Sam-do, Jae-hyub, Mr. Bang, and Seon-wook all lost their lives during the confrontation. Mirio was questioned by the police about the incident. During her testimony, she claimed that Seon-wook was the vigilante, effectively protecting Ji-young's true identity. Meanwhile, Gang-ok was confined to bed after sustaining injuries in the fight. While recovering, he watched the news reporting on Seon-wook's death. The broadcast portrayed Seon-wook as the vigilante, scapegoating him to close the case. In contrast, the late Jae-hyub was posthumously honored with a promotion. He was celebrated as a hero who had died fighting crime, despite the true nature of his actions. As the episode concluded, Ji-young was officially appointed as a police officer. During the oath ceremony for the new recruits, while others spoke with pride, Ji-young stood silently. His expression was filled with anger, his eyes burning with unresolved fury.